Welcome back to Never Enough Novels for another reading vlog. These are my more informal videos where I share a quick glimpse into what I'm currently reading, as well as what might be next on my TBR, and I always love to hear your thoughts on which book I should pick up next, so please share in the comments which one you would pick. But I also wanted to change up these videos a little bit by adding in a few behind the scenes type videos, either things that I'm doing in my personal life, visits to bookstores, things like that I can throw in between my reading thoughts. So let me know if you like this new format and if you want to see more of these kind of behind the scenes videos included in the reading vlogs. And as always, please hit like on this video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more book recommendations. Let's dive into what I'm currently reading. On my Kindle, I have a book called The Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy. This is one of her hockey romances. I have adored every book in this series so far. This is the third book, but the great thing is you don't have to read the first two to enjoy them. They can very easily be read as standalones. I think the first one was The Graham Effect. The second one was The Dixon Roll. So this is the third book called The Charlie Method. And like some of the characters make an appearance, but like I said, they can very easily still be read as standalones. I think I'm about like 15% of the way through this, and it has lived up to the other books in the series so far. They are always full of really great banter, plenty of spicy scenes, and characters that you're absolutely going to fall in love with. In this book, our main character is Charlotte, who is kind of an all-around good girl, but she has this secret side that she doesn't really show to anyone, where she often finds guys on apps or, around school that she hooks up with on the down low. She definitely likes to keep that side completely hidden from everyone else in her life. On this one app, she meets two guys who like to do things together with a girl and is kind of intrigued by this new concept. And the two men are characters that we're familiar with from the previous books in the series. They are hockey players on the Briar University team. The three of them start texting on this app and eventually decide to meet up in real life. However, there are complications for all three of them involved because for various reasons, they don't really want to make this type of relationship public, knowing that there's definitely some stigma around it. And in certain cases, there is a high profile father or a family that's very stick straight and probably wouldn't approve of this type of behavior. So the three of them are supposed to be navigating kind of how to figure out this relationship and whether they're actually catching feelings or just in this for fun. So far, I'm just at the point where they're kind of texting on the app and haven't met in real life yet. So they really don't know who the other people are yet. And I am so excited for that reveal once we all the characters get to know each other. Elle Kennedy can do no wrong when she is writing a hockey romance, and so far this book is no exception. Okay, it has now been a few days since my last video, and I have made some progress on the Charlie Method. I think I'm probably 75% of the way through now, and still highly recommending this. I have loved every bit of it that I have read so far. Each of these guys is so good for Charlie in different ways that I am just loving seeing how she starts to actually rely on someone else for once. And I love that each of them kind of meet different needs in her. I'm still curious, we haven't really got to the conflict yet about kind of everyone's catching feelings without really acknowledging it. So I know there's going to be some probably third act breakup or some big conflict about whether they can make this sort of relationship public or not. And I'm dreading that part. I almost wish I could just finish here and not have to go through kind of whatever conflict I know is coming. But I'm excited to finish it still, and I highly recommend this one so far. Full disclosure, I actually had more to my first part of my video, but my audio cut out a third of the way through and I lost all of it. So I'm going to give you a couple updates that I had planned to talk about before, but just going to go over through those now. First up is that I got another Libby notification that Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney was available. I've had this one on hold for ages, it seems, although I guess it just came out a few weeks ago, so maybe it really hasn't been that long. But I was so excited to read it, and since it became available, I finished a third of the book last night. If you haven't heard of this one, it is about a writer who is on the phone with his wife when he hears the car like stop suddenly, and he hears his wife get out of the car, and then it's just silence. And when they find the car, there is no trace of his wife anywhere, and no one has any idea what happened to her. She's just like mysteriously disappeared. There's no body or anything. So we meet up with Grady like a year later, and he's still struggling to find answers and dealing with this like immeasurable grief because he doesn't know if his wife is still alive, and he hasn't been able to move past what happened. So he's given this opportunity to kind of reset and go to this writer's cabin on this like remote Scottish island. So he heads there hoping to kind of find his muse again, to start writing and basically start to move on with his life. And like all we knew from the synopsis was that he catches a glimpse of his wife, and he is not sure if it's actually her or just someone that looks like her, or maybe just like a figment of his imagination. So now at this point in the story, he's at the cabin and he's starting to meet some of the locals, and there's definitely something strange going on. There are some hints that his wife might have actually been there, or maybe one of the locals like knows who she is or might have seen her, and things are starting to get like a little bit creepy because he's out in this remote cabin in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know where the story is going to go. Like, there is definitely something going on this island, and I'm really curious to see what the ultimate connection to his wife is. This is starting to become a book that I don't necessarily want to read at night because some of the things that happen are definitely a little bit spooky, and I'm not sure if there's like a life-threatening thing or if it's just kind of all in his head. He is also struggling with like a drinking problem and insomnia, so he's got a bit of an unreliable narrator thing going on as well. But like I said, I flew through the first third of this book. There's parts that are kind of atmospheric and a little bit drawn on, so I'm kind of glad I didn't listen to this one on audio because I think I would want to like flip forward through a few parts. But reading it on like my Kindle has been wonderful so far, and I'm looking forward to see like kind of now the story is picking up more, like where it's going to go. The other book that I had wanted to talk about previously and hopefully give you an update on is Onyx Storm. So I'm sure you've heard that this book came out last week. It's kind of been the talk of the book world. I was lucky enough to snag a copy with these beautiful sprayed edges. I had pre-ordered this from Amazon, ages ago, and was one of the lucky ones where it actually showed up on pub day. I know there were tons of issues with people getting their shipments delayed, or people who tried to go to Target and only found like 6 or 7 copies of their exclusive edition. I was considering trying to go to my Target, but it was like -2 that day, and I had no interest in standing outside and waiting. So I'm kind of glad I didn't make the effort since the copies were so limited. So whole big issues with that, but I got my copy on time. Now the problem is trying to decide if I actually want to read it. You can see I've made very little progress so far. I think I'm like 2 chapters in. I chose not to reread Fourth Wing or Iron Flame, and I'm slightly regretting that decision. I know there's also been a lot of discussion about kind of the world building that continues to take place in the first like third of this book, and people are getting very confused about who everyone is. I think there's a lot of characters that are being thrown at us again, and a lot of political situations going on that we might not remember. So part of me, like now that this first wave has passed where everyone's just been talking about it and discussing it, part of me wants to just go back and actually like reread at least Iron Flame so that I'm fully caught up before I dive into this one. Let me know in the comments if you've read this yet. No spoilers, please, because I know I don't want anyone to like accidentally see something that they don't want to see. But let me know if you read Iron Flame again before this, or if you just went in blind to this one, and kind of what your thoughts are. I also have some really exciting book mail to share with you that I just got yesterday, and I was like absolutely floored to open this. This one is a book box for The Gate to Kagoshima by Poppy Karokai, I think is her name. This book box was so exciting because it has the book in it, and then it has a bunch of these really cute stickers as well. So like there's this one with the little Chinese gate, bunch of these cherry blossoms, and then this one with like the girl as a silhouette. So here's the actual book. Karokai. So this book comes with beautiful straight edges, which honestly is like my favorite thing right now. I was so excited when I opened this up. I had already heard about this because it's actually going to be on my list of best new books coming out in February. So it was already on my radar, and I had no idea that this was going to show up at my door. So a huge thanks to Harper Perennial for sending this my way. especially like the sprayed edge edition. That just like never happens. The really interesting thing about this book is that I posted about it on my Instagram, and the author actually replied to me because she was like, I'm so excited to see this was on your list of like best new books in February. And I was like, yeah, it's one of the only fantasies that I'm recommending. And she's like, well, actually, just so you know, she's like, there's not a ton of magical elements or like other type of fantasy things. She said it's more of a historical fiction with like an element of time travel. So I had this whole conversation with her after that because I was like, oh, this book is marketed everywhere as like the best new romantasy coming out, like this time travel, full of action and adventure type thing. And I was like, I feel like the author has been a little frustrated with how the book is being marketed because it's like romantasy is obviously like the hot topic right now. So every publisher wants to take advantage of that trend. But some books are probably being thrown in that category, which don't actually necessarily belong there. So to give you the actual summary of this book, it does involve time travel. So there is a woman named Isla Mackenzie who is from Scotland, and she unexpectedly travels back in time to the dawn of the Satsuma Rebellion. So she's in Japan doing some research on her ancestry, and while there, this typhoon like takes her back in time, and now she's there during like the last reign of the samurais, and she gets to meet her ancestors while she's there, and she also meets this samurai named Kai who she falls in love with, and she is now stuck kind of facing decisions because she knows the outcome of this Satsuma rebellion and she knows Kai's fate, and she doesn't know if she should try and change history to like stay with him, or if she should just try and kind of let the past happen as it was supposed to and find a way back to her current time. So if you've read or heard of Outlander, I'm sure you're getting very similar vibes to that. I love that there's even like the Scotland connection because our main character is originally from there. So there's definitely like a lot of similarities between this and Outlander, where a woman gets traveled back in time and falls in love with this guy who's about to die as part of this rebellion, and she's trying to decide basically what to do and whether to change his fate or not. I love that this book isn't like super long either. So, I mean, so many fantasies these days are like 500 or 600 pages. This seems like a very tight historical fiction, like I said, with that little bit of element of time travel. And despite the fact that it's not really romantasy, I'm still so excited to read it, and I think it sounds like a really incredible book. So I'm highly recommending this one. Like I said, I talked with the author, and she seems delightful. So I'm always really a big fan of like supporting new authors, especially. And this one just seems like a really exciting book for February.